A smart team can do amazing jobs, but a truly diverse team can achieve the impossible. Inclusivity doesn't mean that you are just allowed to be there, but it means that you are equally valued. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, very good morning to all of you. My name is Pradala Singh. I'm a geophysicist and currently working at DTH. First and foremost, I would like to thank you all for investing your precious time today's Friday morning to attend and participate in this session on the crucial issue of gender diversity and inclusion in the energy sector. As we hear this topic, a lot of questions cross our mind, like what exactly is gender diversity? What is inclusion? Are we allowed to have it? Well, all these questions and many more questions and their solutions will be discussed and debated in the brainstorming session which is about to follow. For this session, we have here with us an amazing, absolutely amazing team. And all the session members are actually a great personalities in themselves. They don't really require any introduction. But just for the benefit of the larger audience, I will quickly introduce the session members one by one. This session will be led by the esteemed session chair, Dr. Alka Mittal, who is presently serving in the capacity of Director Human Resources in ONGC. A postgraduate in economics and doctorate in commerce and business studies, she has more than 3 decades of rich experience in the energy sector. The charge of a full-time director in ONGC's history. She has a special penchant for training and mentoring, and she has trained more than 11,000 GTs in ONGC. But of course, I'm also one of them. Welcome, ma'am. Welcome to this session. Presently working as the head of Discovered Small Fields Department at Directorate General of Hydrocarbons. A chemical engineer and an MBA in finance. She has more than 20 to the speakers. We have 4 speakers with us in today's session. The first is Ms. Pamela, Director Finance in Mangalore Refinery and Petrochemicals Limited. She has 36 years of experience in the oil and gas sector in both downstream and upstream. She is the first functional PL. Welcome, ma'am. Our second speaker is Ms. Madhu Srivastava, an alumnus of IIM Ahmedabad. She is the Group Chief HR Officer of Vedanta Group. She is also a part of Group Management Committee, which is the topmost executive body of the group. She has more than 21 years of rich experience in various sectors. Welcome, ma'am. Our third speaker is Mrs. Roopshika Saikia Bora, who holds a master's degree in commerce from Delhi School of Economics. She has served as Director Finance in Oil India Limited. She has more than 3 decades of rich experience in oil and gas sector. She has the distinction of being the first lady chartered accountant from the Northeast. Welcome, ma'am. Our fourth speaker is Ms. Zaina Patel, who is presently working with KPMG as Director, Diversity and Inclusion. She holds an MBA in HR and was the National Manager, Health and Human Rights at UNDP Country Office. She has more than 20 years of national and international experience. Welcome, ma'am. Once again, thank you all for attending this session to share your viewpoints on the subject matter. Now, moving ahead, I would like to invite our session co-chair, Mrs. Tinku Nishchal, for presenting a brief overview of this session.
Good morning, everyone. Prasenjit, can we have the presentation, please? I would just be sharing, because we have such an eminent panelist, there's actually no need to talk much. So, but I would just give the overview of what the session is all about. The next slide, please. Yeah. So, our topic for today is gender diversity and inclusion. I would just like to explain that gender diversity specifically means having equitable representation from people of different genders. But is that inclusion? Not really. Because are these people that we are taking from different genders or different backgrounds, are they comfortable in their organization? Are their rights respected? Are they able to voice their opinions freely? Do they have access to all resources and all enhanced opportunities? Do they have a respect for their rights? That, ladies and gentlemen, is inclusion. And the next slide, please. Now, in terms of gender diversity, what is the international report say? The World Economic Forum says that in terms of gender representation, India ranks 112 out of 153 countries. In the oil and gas sector, the women participation is 22%. In renewables, it is partially better at 32%. But there again, if you see, in administrative jobs, it is 45%, while in STEM roles, it is just a meager 28%. Gender diversity worldwide, it goes down as you go up the ladder. Like at the entry level, if it is 27%, it is 17% at the senior executive level, and at the CEO level, it is just 1%. The next slide, please. We also took a stock of where we stand in India in the oil and gas public sector undertakings. And the results are there for all of you to see that in terms of women's representation in the workforce, women at the entry level, it's just around 8 to 8.5%. And EIL, of course, is a flag bearer with having 12% women in their representation. But as against the global average of 22%, probably we do have a long way to go. In terms of senior management also, we have around just 178 women in the senior management position, which is just 2.5% of the total women in the country, in the oil and gas sector. The next slide. But of course, this is not all. That is one part. But the road has just begun, and the companies are doing a lot. I mean, various steps are being taken, whether for shifts, whether it is arranging for vehicles for pickup and drop to take care of their security, whether it is Arohi, which is a flagship leadership program to mentor women into leadership roles, whether it is a mentoring program which is carried out by ONGC, or in every sphere. We have the sexual harassment sessions which are conducted regularly by OIL. There is a counseling sessions and counseling facilities which are given to BPCL. So the road, it has just begun, and more we will hear from our esteemed panelists. I would request for the next slide. The next slide, please. We also did carry out a small survey to get the pulse of the present population, who are many of whom are already participating in the session. 300 participants participated in the survey, of which 30% were male. And the survey did throw up some things we knew, some things we didn't. For example, 52% of the people felt that the organization is equitable in terms of gender diversity. But when it came to providing support for development of women leaders, the people, 72%, I mean, that's a very high number, felt that the support was slightly in the moderate to small range. And the other thing which many of us already know, that the housework and the child care responsibilities, only 37% feel that it is shared equally. The next slide. And mind you, in this survey, we had a representation from participants all across the E&P spectrum. That is ONGC, Oil India, DGH, MRPL, NTPC, IOC, Vedanta, EIL, Halliburton, just to name a few. Now, the other things that we had also included in our survey were what about the main causes for the low percentage of women? Topmost came that the remote field locations were recent. And factors which hinder women's career responsibilities, it is once again family responsibilities. However, another factor where we feel that the HR, and we all have a lot of role to play, is that the most influential factor in women's career advancement, 78% of the women felt it was their own confidence and self-belief. So I think mentoring and confidence building measures will go a long way to help in this sector. With this, I come to an end, and I would just request our esteemed panelists to take over, because even I am waiting to hear from them. So all over to our erudite session chair, Dr. Alka Mittal, please.
Greetings to the very charming panelists, my co-chair, Ms. Nishchal, Mridula, and the delegates who are with us today. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll begin with complimenting and conveying my appreciation to the Ministry of Petroleum and Natural Gas and the DGH for taking up this important topic of gender diversity and inclusion in the energy sector during this summit. While we are talking about 2050, it's the time when we start talking about this. And the more we talk, the more we will be able to achieve. This reiterates our collective commitment to empowering women and making them equal partners in our journey towards 2050, the Vision 2050, which we have been talking about over last one day, I would say. And this was very emphatically conveyed by the DGH in his opening remarks too. I believe getting women onto the formal workspace in large numbers and in the right earnest is absolutely vital, not only for the industry, but for the nation and the world at large. And thanks for the extensive data that we have come across, and for the kind of transparency which is visible now. We are able to understand the need for gender equality and equity more and more. The cause for gender equality has been espoused by United Nations as well, right from the beginning of this century, I would say, with the Millennium Development Goals coming into force. And then they came up with the Sustainable Development Goals. Again, the need for more and more equitable work space for women and more space for women in the workplace was something which has been stated again and again. And especially for India, when we are looking at being front runners in our growth strategy and being seen as global growth leaders, it is just the right time for us to look at the local as well as national level for coming up with more and more initiatives to have women in larger numbers joining our workforce and becoming an integral part of the journey which a company takes when it goes up on the growth ladder. And I would say that when the World Economic Report, Forum report, which we have been referring to time and again, as per that, 55% of women are there in the workforce, while the number for only 55% of them have been able to come to the workforce, I would say, while the number for men is 78%. So the gap is very wide and clear, and we are the ones who have to do something about it. And while I talk about this, I will also like to touch on the 2009. There was a 2019 report of ILO, where it was very clearly stated that if we are wanting to have more and more women in the corporate world or forging ahead in times to come, it is very important for us to have them at senior and important positions. And the number should be, the percentage of women at these positions should be 30% for us to actually bring about this change, which we all dream of. So at the moment, we are far below that. And for that, in fact, in India, we have 13.8% women at the board level. So the number is definitely not as it should be, but we can always make effort. And we are doing that right now, right today. And so one thing that we can all agree on while we begin with the discussions today is that gender equality is non-negotiable. This is an agenda which has to be kept at the top. by all businesses, all the stakeholders. Otherwise, we will not be able to head towards it. And when we are talking about gender diversity in the energy sector, the situation is a little more disturbing. We all know, as Ms. Nishal just conveyed, 22% of the women are in the workforce when it comes to the oil and gas sector. And the numbers for India are significantly less. And that is really what bothers us. But when we look at it, the challenges across the globe and also in India are there were less and less women in the STEM courses. And that is why the numbers which were available for when we were acquiring talent were less. But now the situation has evolved. It has become better. We all appreciate that. And similarly, the image of the oil and gas sector was, the perception about it was that it is a male dominated sector. So women would not venture into this as a career option. But now things have changed. Over in ONGC, I would say over last 6 years, I have seen almost 100 girls joining the workforce every year, and quite a 75% of them are from the technical disciplines. So they are actually taking on the challenge, and they are seeing this as an adventurous job option, and they stick to us also. So the challenge for retaining women is again something which we talk about every time we are talking about having a gender diverse workforce. And for that, we need women to be able to be with us, to be there to grow at senior levels. And this is what is the challenge for us as organizations. And this is what we are going to be touching on today when we are talking about gender diversity and the options for the energy sector. But while I move forward, as I have almost shared all the challenges that are there, I would like to look at the opportunities for us. And when I talk about that, I will go by that proverb, which says the glass is half full or is it half empty. So I would look at the glass being good, with us having so many opportunities there. And I would say that while less than 10% of our women is there in the E&P sector in India, but the opportunities are huge. And as Ms. Tinku Nishchal just shared, how different organizations are making different efforts to make a difference towards having more and more gender diversity in our workplace. And when we are talking about diversity and inclusion, I will just touch on one or two initiatives that we have taken while this slides are showing what has happened at ONGC. Most of these initiatives we have taken just to make the girls more comfortable at our workplace. Once they are comfortable, they'll be a part of the workforce, an integral part of the workforce, and they'll grow with the organization as we all wish. And here in this situation, I'll talk of a small initiative. We have developed a new design for the dangris which the girls are required to wear when they are in the fields. They don it on for about 12 hours a day. And if they are more comfortable in it, we knew that they will be able to perform their role more effectively. And that is why we partnered with NID Ahmedabad, and the design for Dangri was created, which was not only comfortable for them, but it was as safe as it is required to be, because at ONGC, we always give top priority to safety of our personnel. And this is a part of the PPE that the girls wear, and they are more comfortable in it. It has just been launched from January 2020. And besides this, we have a posh page on our portal just to ensure that women feel secure and they are able to, gender sensitization is kept as a priority for ensuring that there is no discrimination or no kind of I would say no feeling of harassment felt by the girls. So while we are going ahead with this panel discussion and we have these eminent panelists here with us, I would just like to say that I actually look forward to hearing the views and experiences from the panelists, the speakers who are experienced, who have been in this sector for significant number of years. And I hope we can highlight some core issues concerning women in the oil and gas sector, because let us talk about specific issues that are there and generate some great ideas to fulfill our vision for gender diversity and inclusion in our industry. So I'll go ahead with the panel. We will go ahead with the panel discussion right away. And let me start with Ms. Pomila Jaspal, a friend and a colleague from ONGC who is today on the board of MRPL. So I feel so proud to welcome you to this panel, Pomila, and I actually look forward to hearing your views about a few issues which matter to all the women participants and all of us in the energy sector. And like over the course of your career, Pomila, you have witnessed changes in the energy sector that have brought more women into leadership roles. And you have seen it from right from the beginning of your career. How do you think women could use their roles as actors of change to promote gender diversity in the energy sector? Pomila, over to you.
Thank you.
I am all ears, looking forward to listening to you.
Yeah, thank you. And thank you, Dr. Alka Mittal, my chair, honorable chair. And thanks for giving me this opportunity to share my experiences, or how I can, through my long career, I have seen the changes in the gender diversity. In fact, the most important example that I can share with you is my honorable chair, who is sitting, and she is the most, the greatest change that I have seen is that a person who joined ONGC and right at the beginning as a E1 officer gradually rose to the to various levels like group general manager, then ED, and then now she is handling the most important function of the Maharatna company like ONGC. So I think a lot of hats off to you, your journey, and you have been an inspiration for all the girls, for all the people, and I have taken a lot of inspiration from you. Thank you very much, Dr. Alka. Then, in fact, I also convey my greetings to all other panelists, including the co-chair and the organizers for this program, and which is a very important, area of concern as on today. Now, the time when we had joined, in fact, my experience, my career has been, I already rendered about 36 years in this industry. So my experience has been that I have worked in the upstream also, then downstream also, then in the government also, then in the regulatory body like DGH also. So I have seen the the challenges that the girls or the ladies, they are facing, right, when they are in the operating regime or in the regulatory regime. But the most important is that when I just remember at the time when we had joined in 1985, at that point of time, we were just living in Dehradun. In fact, I had one friend, and she was a production engineer. She was also AEEE, the E1 level of ONGC. So, in fact, at that time, the 14 days off on had just started during those times only, 82, 83. So I just, she had a, urge to go, she, burning urge to go to the offshore and stay there for 14 days off on, and commit herself to that 14 days off on regime. But that time, in fact, the ladies were not sent to that offshore platforms because of many reasons, and the most important was the security. And then, in fact, she had asked also in writing. But over the years now, even in MRPL now also, I have come to know that here also initially for the technical disciplines, because all the technical units, they have to work on various 3 shift per day. So the being a lady was a kind of a rejection criteria at initial times. But over the years, the things have definitely changed, and the ladies, they have overgrown now. But then at the end of the day, we are still feeling that in fact, the you can say the intensity of the ladies has been lesser in energy sector as compared with the other service industry or the manufacturing industry. But of course, the energy sector is far better, you can say, than the extractive industries like mining industry, where there are the ladies, they are also prone to various vulnerable occupational hazards. And now, in fact, over the period of time, we have seen that lot of changes, because initially the ladies were, we were more concerned, the organizations were more concerned about the welfare of the ladies. And now from welfare, the focus has shifted to the, you can say, the advancement or the advancement of the ladies, or you can say the development of the ladies. So from welfare, the focus has shifted from welfare to the advancement of the ladies in their area, in their scope of the work. And despite, because as we see that despite there are remote locations where the facilities like the Northeast, for example, or you can say where, even in the refineries also I see the, when the girls, they are shifting, they are working on these shift basis. So they are given all the facilities, including the transportation. And when the ladies, they are in their vulnerable, span of the life, when in fact, when their children are small, so that is a kind of a situation where they have to do their life, work-life balance kind of a situation, where they have to attend to their home front is also equally important, and their office is also important, their field duties are also important. So they are, in fact, they are given all the care by by the organizations. So given that kind of a situation where all the care is given in the form of, you can say, the child care leave, you can say the transportation facilities, then the medical facilities during the emergencies. So then there is nothing left for, you can say, for the ladies except to engage themselves and have a good life balance with their between their office and their home front. Now there is in fact, I can share one example. In case of MRPL, we are seeing that there is one hydrocracking unit. Now that hydrocracking unit, which in fact that is totally designed and operated by the women, and who are working on a 3-shift basis, and even they are attending to the emergencies also. So that is the kind of the diversity that the ladies have gone into now, into that. Then, in fact, there are a lot of participation, increased participation I have seen across my career, that in the women leadership position, where the ladies, they have gone into they have risen to the position of the EDs, then they have risen to the position of the leaders, women leaders in their board positions now. Like, for example, we had our Dr. Alka Mittal herself. She has gone to that position. That is, in fact, a great inspiration for everyone. Then Madam Veena Sarup was there. She also rose to that position. Then Mrs. Joshi is there from finance. She has gone to that position. She is now the CMD of the Shipping Corporation of India. Then, in addition to that, we can name many. Mrs. Bora is there. She has been the aspirant for that CMD candidate also, and she is also herself. She has been the ex-director finance of Oil India Limited. So we have even including in HPCL, Mrs. Nishi Vasudeva was there. She was heading that. So that kind of what I want to just quote over here is that the ladies, these ladies, they become the role model. They become the role model for the other energy leaders, energy women over here, who also strive to, achieve achieve these positions by their consistent efforts and by their regular and trying to learn from them, in fact, that the kind of the life these leaders have gone into in making them the board level officers, board level women. So every lady that he has an aspiration to become and to achieve at that position. I think this was one area where I find that, in fact, our all the women leaders, they should also strive, and other leaders also, they should also get an inspiration to get to those positions. Then, of course, what I personally feel is that the women can themselves, they can promote the gender diversity in an energy sector through various methods. Like we can have the debates and discussions in forums. Like best forums are, for example, they are given by WIPS, for example, Women in Public Sector. Then we have the forum like SCOPE, that is a standing committee of public enterprises. Then we have within our organizations, we have our women development forums. Then, of course, there are so many forums now internationally also, like Madam has been telling about this. ILO reports are there. Then, of course, I just came across that there is a 30-member club is there, where in fact from almost 66 countries, the women leaders, they have been taken, and that particular 30 plus club, that the main aim of that 30 plus club is to mentor the various other women counterparts, and in order to and make them strive for their various women empowerment techniques. So at these times, then more important is that this Tinku was also referring to about this STEM. That is that now what I personally find is that the graduates, we are having lot many graduates. Girl graduates are there, but from the STEM discipline they are lesser. But definitely, what I find now that apart from the public sector, even the private sector, what I am finding is that the private sector, and that too in the energy sector, I am finding like with is there, Halliburton is there, these companies are there. So they are having lot many energy leaders, so on which we can aspire for.
Definitely.
And I think that I will now pass on to my next panelist and back to Madam.
Thank you, Pamela, Miss Pamela. Right from the production engineer colleague of yours who could not get a place in the field because the situation was not conducive. Today we have 160 girls working in the fields, both in the offshore and onshore. So this is the difference you have been able to bring about in the culture and in the way the things are. So, and as you very well mentioned, MRPL is moving forward with the hydro cracking unit having totally manned by women. Wonderful initiative. OMPL, a subsidiary, is also doing wonderfully well with 17% workforce comprising of women. So this is what the difference is coming about in our sector, and it is so heartwarming, and it is so nice, so encouraging. And you very well said, networking is the key to it. When women are able to be together, to mentor each other, to understand from each other, that is the time when change happens. And this is what we have seen happen in our own company and across the public sector of India. So I'll pass on the mic to now Ms. Madhu Srivastav, who is there from the private sector. And Madhu, if you are able to share with us what your organization is doing to attract, retain, and promote more women into senior management positions to respond to the dramatic industry transformation need that we have all emphasized upon. We'll be very keen to listen to that. And while you're talking about that, if you could talk about actions that should be taken in the energy sector to accelerate change and increase diversity and foster a better gender balance in the boardroom. Because ultimately the positions at the top are looking forward to having more and more women vying for them. So please, Mike is all yours. Please go ahead and share with us your thoughts. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Alka, and thanks a lot for inviting me in this forum. Good morning to everybody. So, Dr. Alka, one thing which I picked up from your opening, speech was gender diversity is non-negotiable, and the agenda has to start right from the top. And I'm very pleased to share some examples on how we treat this at Vedanta, this very important topic. It is a very, very important topic and agenda for us right from the top, right from our chairman level, from the vice chairman level, from the group CEO level. So that's where it starts. And then, it percolates right through the organization in terms of the leadership team. Maybe for everybody, we have 200 plus participants. Vedanta is a natural resources organization. Globally, we are the sixth largest with interests in oil and gas. We have zinc, lead, silver, aluminium, copper, iron ore. We have operations in India, Africa, Australia, and Ireland. And then roughly in terms of people, between contractors and our own employees, we employ 94,000 people, of which oil and gas is around 2,000 people who are on the rolls of the company, and another 10 to 11,000 people who are contractors. So that's the kind of landscape that we've got. In terms of our executive population, and a lot of statistics have been shared. So little statistics I want to share before I move to specific initiatives that we are driving as an organization. In terms of statistics, if we talk about our 14,000 executive professionals, which are graduates and above, people we take from the colleges, this includes our GETs, our lateral talent. Our gender diversity ratio in our top management team, which is top 200 people, is in excess of 20%, close to 21% to be precise. Another statistic that I would like to share with you is in all our decision-making bodies. I saw some of our panel members did speak about, how we need to have women in boards, starting from the board and in decision-making bodies, so that, we can increase the numbers right through the organizations and right through the industry. In our decision-making bodies, which includes our group Mancom, group executive committee, business management committees, business executive committees, our gender diversity ratio is 28%, and our vision and target is 33%. So we are not too bad, but however, we are not stopping here. We continue to make efforts to reach a 33% gender diversity percentage in decision-making bodies. One example that I would like to share, and then maybe I'll start with, first of all, our priorities. You asked about what are the initiatives we are driving in terms of recruitment, in terms of our talent management practices to promote a healthy balance or have an equal participation of women leaders. Whenever we go out to colleges, and every year Vedanta hires across all our verticals around 1,000 to 1,500 freshers from the colleges. This includes engineers, this includes MBAs, this includes chartered accountants, ICWAs, all of them. Our target is 50%. We are still not there. We are close to 37%, and this percentage was a mere 15% 3 years back. We've moved to 37% in the last 3 years, but our target is 50%. We want to start with an equal number of women employees when we go to the colleges. When it comes to lateral hiring, people with experience that we hire from the market, and we work with a lot of recruitment firms. We will not accept a slate or a short list of candidates from the recruitment firms unless it is a balanced slate. If it's all men, we will not accept it. We will tell them that we will only start the interview process if we have at least 30 to 40% women. And then this, I'm talking about the leadership positions or middle management, when we go out to hire in the market. So those are two very, very important mandates. And these mandates are coming right from the top. And this is followed right across the organization. One example that I want to share, which is specific to our oil and gas business, KN. 2 years back, our gender diversity in the KN business, which is the oil and gas business, was only 9%. And then we thought, our target is 30%. We need to do something transformational. We need to do something disruptive, because it cannot be a journey. Because every year we go to colleges, we hire people. It can take us 10 years, 20 years to reach a 30%, 40% number. So we said we have to do something disruptive, and those are things that we need to do. So we went out to the market after the campus season was over, and we said we want to induct 150 women talent as GTs, as management trainees from the colleges. Obviously, the campus season was over. However, we got in touch with the consultants who from the market contacted the students, and we got students, and we took students who had 0 experience, who had 1 year experience, up to 2 year experience. We inducted 150 women leaders, and in a stroke, in a single stroke, the gender diversity ratio of KN moved from 9% to 17%. So today we are sitting at 17%. So still not there, but I think those are some disruptive actions that we need to take. So that's on recruitment. But when it comes to talent management, it's not just about recruitment. It's easy to get the women talent. I mean, when you go and hire, because we are like Vedanta, I'm sure all of us, all the companies, I mean, these women want to build their careers. They join us, so that is easy. But how do we integrate them? How do we build their careers? How do we grow them? That's the most important part. So what we do, and again, giving an example, and I pick it up from the ONGC presentation earlier. We had an example 3-4 years back. Our line managers would not let our lady maintenance engineers climb up a rake, saying, "Tum to ladki ho." I mean, it's out of care. It's no discrimination, but it's out of care. So how will you climb up? You may hurt yourself. But women don't want that. Women want equal opportunity. So we saw a lot of attrition, and so we've plugged that. So what we've done internally is we've conducted a lot of gender sensitization sessions, both for our male leaders as well as female leaders. Because I was reading in the comments also, it's very important for our men leaders to ensure that they encourage diversity, and more than inducting diversity into the organization, it is about inclusion. It is about their growth. It is about giving them equal opportunities. Nobody is asking for discrimination, positive discrimination. The women are only asking for a equal opportunity. So which is what we have provided to our people, to our employees, and we've seen a growth, and we've seen a far higher retention. The other programs that we are driving, which has helped us in terms of retaining women and even growing them into leadership roles, is mentoring programs. So there is a program that we have in Vedanta which I want to talk about. It is called We Lead. And the idea is basically we've started with 50 women leaders who are handpicked talent from the middle management level. The idea is basically how we can anchor them, how we can groom them, use forums to get feedback from them. What is the situation on the ground? What needs to be corrected? And then propel them into decision-making roles. So our target is that in the next 6 months, all these 50 women leaders should move to a decision-making body, whether it's an executive committee of a SBU, of a business, or a management committee. So that is one example that I wanted to share. And after this batch of 50, we will launch another batch. So this will be an ongoing program. We have women councils, and I think Dr. Alka and Tinkuji also spoke about having these kind of forums, so that we can facilitate, we can help our women leaders as they go through various phases of their life cycle. I mean, just to give another example, we had a situation few years back where and then in the oil and gas sector, when you go to the rigs, you don't even have proper washrooms for women. And somebody spoke about the overhaul or the PPE that our women employees wear. I think a lot of work done by ONGC, where a specially designed uniform has been launched. Similarly, when we saw the rigs and we saw that our women GTs and our women leaders were actually not able to go to the washroom, they would for 4 or 5 hours until they returned back to the office, they wouldn't be able to go back to the washroom. So we've ensured that we've got washrooms. I mean, it's a very basic things, but I think sometimes we forget the basic things and we do a lot of big things. So I think those are some things that we've done in Vedanta. We've got these women councils, we've got special mentoring programs, special leadership development programs. And another thing that we do internally is, if we have a choice between two internal leaders, and we have to fill up an internal position or leadership positions, everything else being equal, our preference is to move women to that role, a lady to that role. Because unless we do it consciously, the representation of women in the senior bodies or decision-making bodies will not increase. So those are few examples that I wanted to share. Coming back to your second point, Dr. Alka, on what we can do as an industry. Again, sharing one example, when we went to ISM Dhanbad this year to hire freshers, out of 317 students who showed up for the CANE placements, and then our oil and gas business actually goes on day 0. It is a preferred employer on campus in ISM Dhanbad. Out of 317 students, there were only 57 women. And we got none in petroleum engineering, none. So what we can do as an industry body to encourage more and more students to get into oil and gas, because we all know that careers in oil and gas can be very rewarding, both from a professional point of view as well as from a remuneration point of view. I mean, there are global careers that people can build. So how can we induct more of our youngsters, women? Can we tie up with colleges? So when the students are making a decision in their class 11, 12 to choose a stream, can we impact that decision making and induct more women in our colleges? I think that's point number one. The other point is, can we have more industry forums? And like we are meeting now, but maybe many forums at various levels, at senior levels, at mid levels, where I think some experience sharing can happen. We can benchmark with each other, we can learn with each other, because there are a lot of good practices which are happening, but they are in pockets. How we can learn from each other, how we can implement these practices across, and also create some forums which become more learning and sharing forums. So I think those are some examples or some thoughts that I had. Dr. Alka, if you have any other specific question, I'll be happy to answer. But many thanks for inviting me for this panel.
Madhuji, in fact, you have driven at the crux of it. And I would say that this synergy, this kind of synergy which you touched upon at the towards the end, when you spoke about how the sector as a whole could work with synergy and create more and more opportunities for women. So this synergy is going to bring lots of energy to this particular agenda, I would say. And what you spoke about how you could build up with a special focus drive for recruiting women, and you could increase the participation of women in the workforce from 9% to 17% with the one recruitment drive like this. Wonderful. Really hats off. And I would say that there's so much we have come to know about what is happening at Vedanta when it comes to the diversity agenda. And the way you have been able to have all these councils, decision-making councils where women are there, 28% of the women are there in decision-making committees and forums. So that is what is required. And wonderful. We will be talking a lot, I'm sure, in the next few minutes, which we have. But let us hear Ms. Bora, Ma'am Bora from ex-Oil India. But as I say, a person who's a part of the oil industry remains a part of it, whether after superannuation too. And in case of Ms. Bora, we have seen her grow with Oil India, and we have seen the kind of contribution she has made to the business of the company, as well as to the business of promoting more and more women in the company by way of encouraging them, mentoring them. So ma'am, we would like to understand how the companies that embrace diversity outperform their competitors. As a finance person, I feel you are the best person to talk about it. And what type of diversity programs did Oil India have, which helped us in having more and more women coming up the ladder at Oil India? And how were the future leaders or women leaders mentored there? While you're talking about this, you could also talk about how do you think it would impact the gender balance in the organization and how we can improve it? Because when we have more and more recruitment there, we will be able to have more women in the workforce. But how are we able to mentor them to ensure that they remain with us? So ma'am, all over to you. Please talk about it freely, and we really look forward to listening to you. Ma'am, please unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. A very good morning to you all. Well, and it's very, I'm really happy that you have given me this opportunity to share my thoughts. Thank you very much for having me here on the panel. Well, Alka, yes, it's nice to see you. It's nice to see Formula. It's nice to, since I was in Oil India, now I have retired, and it's very nice of you to have me here in this panel. I'm really grateful to you. Yes, diversity, and in the context of today's discussion, gender diversity in particular adds immense value to a company's image building and business growth. I worked in Oil India, an E&P company in the upstream sector for almost 3 decades, and I retired about 2 years back. As a PSU, our strategic framework, including diversity programs, obviously have to follow the laid down procedures led by the government. But what we have seen, that from our experience, we have seen that within that space, a creative and supportive ecosystem can be put in place to promote diversity. As all of you know, petroleum is a knowledge-intensive industry where more technology per barrel is the key to success. The company's goal all along has been to give equal opportunity during recruitment to all the qualified women across various disciplines, including high-tech areas of geoscience, petroleum engineering, production, finance, etc. To ensure fairness, what we have done is that in all the recruitment and promotion committees, we invariably have senior women managers. Second, what we used to have is that suitable HR practices are there in place to identify and mentor executives with high growth potential as future leaders. Training programs are worked out and organized for women where we have women employees and where we give due consideration to all the women employees. While both spouses, when they work for the company, we see to it that there is to avoid they don't have any family dislocation, and special care is given for intersphere transfers and postings. What we do is that we follow a robust family care support system where, for ensuring the smooth return of the women employees once after their maternity and motherhood and child care leave, the child care leave. With all these initiatives, women representation in senior positions has gone up, but I'm sorry to say, but we have a long way to go. And there a lot more needs to be achieved. In fact, if you see the diversity in the gender diversity at the board level is quite poor even now. What we certainly need is more and more women and to fill up the talent pipeline. If you see, and coming to Oil India again, since I started my career, my whole journey is in that company. At the entry level, most of the women employees tend to join disciplines like admin, materials, PR, or you can say medical, etc. But over the years, more and more women have joined other functions like geology, geophysics, chemical engineering, production engineering, etc. But the least women representations are in disciplines which call for active field duty in remote locations like drilling and production engineering. This definitely has a very adverse impact as far as overall gender diversity balance is concerned, because these are the core functions, as you know, in an upstream company. So due to not having this, since they do not have this adequate exposure in the field operations, this small number of women, they really miss out in the career progress at the leadership positions, because these are often considered, these are field experience or exposure is considered as one of the prerequisites for career advancement. And I think what we can do is that we have to have a multi-pronged strategy on the following lines, which would help them to improve the gender balance. Recruitment of higher number of women employees, particularly in functions where the strength is very low. Avoid leaky talent pipeline through suitable HR policy interventions. This leaky pipeline, talent pipeline, which I'm talking about, is because most of the women, they try to leave they leave the company, they leave the career mid-career, because of family responsibilities, because of they have to, you can call the 3 M's, the marriage, motherhood, mobility, and caring for the elderly. So this leakage, and what happens because of this, they leave the career, and they don't mind leaving their career. So in midway, what I mean to say. So we have to seal this leaky talent pipeline and motivate, and being an upstream company, we have to encourage these women to take field challenging assignments and various posting in the operational areas. In fact, we have to motivate and facilitate an enabling work environment for women employees to volunteer for field duties. As what I have seen just now, somebody just now they were saying, like, we have to have a men in this panel. I wish we had this, because whatever till now we had, I don't think we have any women CEO in the upstream or in the petrol, oil and gas industry. So it is very nice, because what I find that it has to come from the initiative has to come from the conscious effort has to come from the top management. CEOs will have to drive become the champions of the diversity and inclusion. I mean, without their support, without their initiative, nothing can be done. It will be just talk and not walk the talk, to be frank enough. And we don't need any special treatment and pampering, to be frank enough. All we ask for a fair and equal opportunity without being stereotyped. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Wonderful. Fair and equal opportunity. You seem to be echoing the thoughts that have been voiced by the other panelists. In fact, Madhu said the same thing, and you echo the same thoughts. And what you mentioned about the 3 M's coming in the way of the careers of women. Organizations are making all efforts to align their personal goals and ambitions with the need for them to be more concerned about the family and their responsibilities. Definitely a lot has been done. A lot will be done over times to come. And the leaking talent pipeline is something which we have to address. And for that, we have been talking about it, and we have been making all effort to plug that leakage, I would say. And while we are talking about this, I think we should not miss out the opportunity of listening to Madam Zainab Patel, who's here with us. Zainab, thank you for being with us, first of all. And I would like to know from you, what do you think are the causes for the existing gender inequalities within the energy sector? You have heard all of us, so now is the time when you can talk about it. And more specifically, you could talk about the oil and gas sector. And how, in your view, can we utilize gender diversity to promote organizational performance and bring perceptible changes in the industry? It's over to you now, Zainab. Please share your thoughts. Be free and be as frank in your expressing your opinion as you can be. So I am muting.
Thank you, Dr. Alka. In fact, it was great pleasure listening to Madhu, Pomila, and Ms. Bora before me. And in fact, after listening to such stalwarts, there's very little that I can actually contribute. But I'm actually going to draw something from 2 global kind of scenarios. And I think these hold true not only for the energy sector in India, but in terms of the overall gender diversity. So I had the good fortune of working with the United Nations as a career diplomat for about 11 years, 7 of which were in serving India and about 4 at the regional level in the Asia Pacific. And I think if you look at the entire conversation around gender equality, and I'm referring to 2 major KPMG publications. One that in terms of a recently concluded Enrich discussion where we talked about renewable energy and gender diversity and diversity and inclusion. We do realize from all the conversation, whether it was you who spoke or others, that representation of women per se in the ENR sector has been minimal. It is very starkly contrasting in terms of how do we get beyond certain things. Now, there were a few comments in the chat box, and I was thinking, and also reiterated by some of the panelists, that for a change, this is a all-woman panel. And it does rattle a few people to see that women taking charge of their agenda and moving forward and providing such concrete suggestions on increasing gender parity, etc. The second thing which I kind of need is that women need to constantly upgrade their skill it is critical to play on capabilities and not on gender. This is again building on what Pamela, on what Ritu, on what Madhu said, that this is, in order to create a supportive ecosystem, we need the sponsorship to nurture women leaders. Right bang on when Madhu said that, and Ms. Bora said that, it is the CEOs that would play a role, that we don't see a current CEO, women CEO. So what would be the necessary sponsorship? And ultimately is women need to negotiate and network, and they need to speak up and have confidence in stating their opinions and putting forth their expectation. And sometimes it's also all right to fail and to fall, because I guess these are common situations which are very important for us in terms of helping people grow. If I just kind of zoom out and look at it from an overall global perspective, we do know that diversity and inclusion has been on the business agenda for number of years. If I look at the journey in India, it's been around a decade or so. And yet to this date, we do not have a very strong, especially the energy sector doesn't have a very strong track record in encouraging and nurturing diverse talents. And what does that mean? It is also true because of the cultural, racial, disability diversity, and in particular, the gender diversity. Very few women in ONG jobs, because almost compared to any other major industry, it is accounting for less than 1/4 of employees in the sector worldwide. And these figures kind of go smaller as they go higher up in the business ladder. Oil, gas, and energy sector, we are currently experiencing a period of change and disruption. This has been fueled in because of COVID, because of global disruptions, economy change. But I feel that this is also an opportunity, a moment for us. Like there's a message in the chat box that COVID has actually provided an opportunity. For me, it's an option moment to basically examine what are the inherent industry-led biases and what are the steps that we could take to create a more gender diverse workforce. A couple of statistics which I thought just add a little more flavor and color to the discussion as we wrap up is that while women make up 22% of employees in the ONG sector worldwide, this is according to Catalyst, the diversity at the global level seems to increase with seniority. Entry level positions comprise of 27%. So while we talk about at least 30% representation of women, only 17% are at senior or exec level positions, and just 1% of the global ONG gas CEOs are women globally. And it's just that the lack of women in technical and field roles is partly to blame for the lack of women representation of top levels of oil and gas. As for me, because these roles are often seen as stepping stones to advancement, women are more likely to hold positions in support functions, HR, information technology, legal, with less kind of representations across manufacturing, engineering, and research. I'm not going to be talking more on the impact of COVID, because I think everyone does get to understand from the COVID perspective that how we've cut down operational costs, how we've looked at door-to-door delivery, etc. But I'm going to kind of focus more on how we kind of move ahead. And these are summing up some of the recommendations that we said. I believe that negotiation and networking are two important pillars that women leaders need to kind of lean on. And these are opportunities that need to be provided by the ecosystem, by the management, and the numerous examples spoken by Madhu and others, and also by you, Dr. Alka, in terms of providing opportunities for women to come together. Is a second important thing is sector sector coalitions. How can they advocate for greater inclusion? Are we kind of looking at the government of India and other sector bodies? Are we looking at commissioning studies and, using data to inform industry experiences? Because we may all have the tools in varying capacities, the private sector, the public sector, but what is lacking is the vision and commitment to put all together. I think in the vision of the Prime Minister, when he says Sabka Saath Sabka Vikas, I think this element of bringing in whether it is to bring into quota system, to extensive training of senior staff and board members, designing a gender inclusion plan, and a good monitoring of these key performance indicators. While it may seem that this is a normal run run of the mill kind of exercise, but I speak on behalf of KPMG, and I look at the overall diversity. While it is easier to get overall diversity high, and we do aim by 2025 we will reach a 50-50 parity, it is increasing the M plus levels, and basically in the PD group that we want to see women representation. Also the forming and supporting of women in energy efficiency associations, whether it's national or international, like, this kind of networks, this is a kind of recommendation which we would actually kind of look at doing better. And also we've seen that through certain examples, that while we've taken certain steps on the inclusion agenda, some of it have been to statutory compliances. We also need a stronger ESG environment safeguard framework, and to get the key to get more women into the workforce is also skilling them. Somehow when we looked at some of the other panel recommendations, we've talked about that how regulations in the law are not necessarily gender inclusive. There are laws which still don't allow women to have pay parity with men. I think these also, and there were some interesting panel discussions at the recently concluded Enrich panel, where we talked about the hesitation of getting women engineers to work. Some managers are not okay with it. So I think if we look at the policy environment, most of it has been from a bottoms-up approach, and there has been a lot of progress made in Southeast Asia with regard to policy, and we should look at getting some of these good practices to India to help us enable and move forward. And I actually want to end with just one line, that the theme for the 2021 International Women's Day, which is just around the corner next month, is choose to challenge. And I think this panel is all about choosing to challenge, because looking at the stalwarts around, whether it is Pomila, Madhu, Ms. Bora, you, Dr. Alka, I think you have challenged all of the necessary stereotypes to reach where you are today, and you do serve as a role example. But we need more such people, more such encouragement, whether it is through representation, through quota, or through an inclusion and diversity plan, especially from the gender angle. Thank you. I'm mindful of time, and I hand it back over to you, Dr. Alka.
Thank you so much, Zainab. In such a brief time frame, you have packed so much of content. Thank you so much. I really appreciate, and the kind of impact this is going to have over the discussions that will follow is going to be tremendous, I am sure. So when we are talking about through a combination of affirmative policies and fair opportunities to all, sensitization workshops, of course, targeted hirings and developmental programs focused on women, we can make tremendous headway as an industry. And let us listen to the voice of the girls who are here with us, and let us see if some of them have certain questions which we could actually address. And the first question is by Udit Jagtap, Digital Lead Engineer, ACME. Ma'am, if you see a class of BTech chemical engineering, inequality will be seen over there itself. How are you promoting to opt for energy courses and ensuring promising careers to the young women? Let us ask Madhu to further add a little bit, because I feel a lot is being done in the industry. We are not only going to ISM, we have UPES, we have RGIPT, and girls are joining these institutions as well. So Madhu, would you like to add a little to this and respond to this question?
Yeah, sure, Doctor.
Sure, Dr. Alka. So I think a very good question, and we as an industry body, I think we need to do something, to address this, because that's our experience as well. So when we go to the colleges, we don't see the right representation of women. But one thing that we are doing, and I think I will take back this feedback to my company. But one thing that we have been doing is how we can partner with universities in terms of the introducing oil and gas, or industry, the energy specific courses. So there is a tie-up that we are doing with many colleges, including the IITs, the ISMs, the NITs. But I think more has to be done, where we can have a forum in terms of encouraging the energy focused courses, ensuring that more and more, not just women, more and more students take up those courses, and then they are more relevant for us in terms of hiring from the campuses. and you know, they when they join our companies, their career is already on a fast track because they have done those courses. So I think we are already doing it, but not to that scale. So there is always a scope of improvement, but definitely I think we should all take this feedback and take it back to our companies.
Very well addressed this concern. And there's another, I would say, in fact, it's a query which has been fielded by Navtej Singh Chahal. He has mentioned, do you have special schemes for girl child of employees? So if you are addressing this question at me, Navtej, we don't have special scheme for the girl child of employees, but when we have introduced scholarship scheme for different categories of the community around our operational areas, whether it is scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, OBC, or economically weaker section. So when we are going for those 2,000 scholarships, 1,000 of them are targeting only the girl child, just to ensure that we are able to promote gender diversity around our operational area. So that is one initiative that has been taken, and which is indicative of our pledge to create more and more gender diverse ecosystem for the girls. So this is one observation that I feel could be relevant for all of us. And any other question, if it is there, maybe Ms. Tinku Nischal can voice and can share her thoughts on this. Otherwise, we'll go for a summing up session, because I can see a number of queries, but quite a few of them are focused on almost the things which we have already spoken about, because while we were speaking, queries were coming. So there's one which is there, which I feel, given the present low percentage of women in Indian oil and gas, should there be a focused industry-wide intervention for setting up a target to reach 15%, say, by next 5 years? It makes lots of sense. So let us all deliberate, collaborate, and target something like this. 5 years is not that small a period. Over 5 years, we can definitely make that change which we are dreaming of, which we are talking of today. So I think on this note, with the pledge to do our best towards this, I can pass the mic on to Tinku, Ms. Tinku Nischal, who could just sum it up, and then we will conclude this session, because we have a timeline which has been given to us.
Thank you so much, ma'am. The session was overwhelming. And I just to sum up quickly, the first statement which emerged is gender diversity is non-negotiable. And we do not need any pampering for it, but only fair and equal opportunities. We have come a long way from 1985, when a keen girl was denied her choice posting in offshore, to more than 160 women officers in offshore. ONGC has specially designed PPE kits and Dangri kits for the comfort of the women employees. Hydrofrac units in MRPL, 3 shifts a day, are being manned only by women. We have in CANE special gender diversity policies, wherein the gender diversity, they have, by disruptive measures, the gender diversity they have significantly helped in improving their numbers. In the top management in Vedanta, which is very, very encouraging, the gender diversity is 20%, and in decision-making bodies, it is 35%. Well, certain measures which have emerged is that in ISM, that we have to reach out to the students to impact them more, to take up courses in petroleum engineering and in these fields which are actually very remunerative, but the women generally, as a tendency, they have a tendency to shy away. We need to have build up synergy. We need to learn from each other. Women need to constantly upgrade their skills. They need to negotiate, network, and also there needs to be sector coalitions to which would vigorously advocate for gendered inclusions. Another point which Ms. Zainab made was that regulations and laws which are there presently, they are not gender inclusive. So probably we need to work on that also. And the point which was made by Ms. Bora, that the leaky talent pipeline which needs to be plugged. this is something very important, and I'm sure most companies, at least in my company, they do it. That constantly they are mentoring the women, so that in along from their motherhood, when they come back, they are absorbed into the mainstream with special mentoring courses. So, ma'am, I think and I would lastly like to end with the theme of 2021 Women's Day, which is approaching. That is choose to challenge. And I know all the panelists here, they have challenged the system. They have risen up by their own merit, and it is a source of inspiration for all of us and all the 200 odd audience who has assembled here, in spite of it being in the early morning session, and have chosen to hear from all of you. And I think we go back very enriched and very motivated to take up the challenge even further. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks, Tinku. And while we part, I will just end with a particular thought. You know, in ONGC today, we have, during the COVID scenario, when 70 days at a length people were working in the offshore, we had 14 girls contributing as effectively as the guys to make the operation sustain during the COVID situation. So this is it. You know, this is the spirit with which girls work, and I hope they will continue to work. And we choose to challenge, and we will make sure that the difference which we have embarked on bringing about is brought about. I thank each and every panelist for being with us, and I wish you a wonderful journey ahead, and I wish equally good time to the participants and the delegates for the further deliberations that are going to go on. Let us all contribute as much as we can towards this sector and make it a really happening place. Thank you so much. I think on this note, we should end the session.